Hey there, it's Aeron Mack, the backyard trainer. Welcome to Flip That Horse. You know, you don't need a fancy barn or a lot of fancy equipment to do a good job training and working with horses. You just need some patience, the right attitude, and a little extra time. Right now I have my backyard and a round pen, and that's it. No barn, no ring, no nice footing. Just got whatever's out here in the backyard to work with. So that's what we're going to use. Stay tuned. In this episode we're going to put the saddle on the filly and we're going to start getting on her for the very first time. Stay tuned. Okay, so we've done a little work with the saddle on her. She follows me around the round pen. She's nice and calm, so I'm going to put the halter back on her. And I'm using my usual natural horsemanship style rope halter and the 12-foot lead. So now we're going to do a little work with the saddle on, continuing to sack her out a little bit, get her used to carrying it around, and ask her for a few different types of things, and make sure she's absolutely comfortable having this saddle on her. We're going to do a little refresher course here, so a little backing up, and go back to our leading lesson and make sure she remembers what we talked about then. So she's backing up nicely. And we're just going to sort of vary the program a little bit, go through a few different things here. Little refresher course, only this time with the saddle on her. It's important to do all of this stuff before we get on her for the first time. So there are a few surprises. So I'm going to ask her to move around me again. Now with the saddle on, so I'm letting the stirrups hang down loose and let her get used to the noise of them flapping around and the feeling of them flapping around. And that's a safety thing as well, because once I get on her, if she jumps a little bit sideways or starts to trot around and my feet or the stirrups hit her in the side, I want her to be used to that feeling. I don't want it to scare her, because if I happen to be off balance and she gets a little spooked and jumps sideways, then I might be on the ground before I know it. So we're going to try and eliminate one by one all the possible problems we might have once we get in the saddle. And the way we do that is to continue to work with her on the ground and make sure her foundation is solid before we get on her. I can't tell you how many horses I've seen and even ridden that did not have this type of solid foundation, and it's very dangerous. So we're just going to continue to ask her to go over some of the things we've discussed before. We're taking it very slowly. This is a crucial time in her training. She's only 2 years old, so she's going to have a very long life of riding, but we can only do this type of basic foundation work once. Well, that's not true. But it's very important to put the right foundation on her first. And make sure there are no holes in her education that could show up later as problems. So at this point I'm going to continue to work her, and now I'm asking her to yield to the pressure of the rope. This is the first part of teaching her how to steer. Once I'm in the saddle, I'm going to be pulling on my rein, and in order for her to be able to respond properly, I'm going to start doing that before I even get on her. So I'm going to work it from both sides, and all I'm going to do is I'm going to put some light pressure on the rope, and I'm going to wait till she relaxes and gives me her head even just a tiny little bit, and then I immediately release the pressure. So I'll go back to this side, a little pressure on the rope, and she starts to turn her head towards me. I'm going to ask her again, turns her head towards me, and then comes all the way back. That's what I'm looking for, and I have very light pressure on the rope at this point, but she's picking it up so quickly that I don't need to use a heavy hand. I can use a very light touch. As long as my timing is good, I don't have to get firm with her, I can ask her in a very gentle and subtle way, and she'll respond, because she knows that the second she gets that release, that she's done the right thing. So I'm just going to keep going from side to side. And then before I get on her, I'm going to actually switch her over to my riding halter. It's a rope halter as well. I invented it specifically for this purpose, to start horses in and teach them how to steer, and then I'll use it on her pretty much for the rest of her life. If you want more information about it, I just call it my riding halter, or bitless riding halter, and you can find out more about it on my website at naturalhorsemanship.biz. And I really just invented it for myself, but I found out some other people liked it as well, and so now I make them available for sale on my website. You can see what they look like once you get on there. It's got, I've eliminated the Fiador knot under the chin, and I added 2 rings so you can attach your reins directly to it, and you can use it as a halter or a bridle. And so that's what we're going to use when we get on her for the first time. So meanwhile, we're just continuing to do our sacking out work, letting the saddle make some noise, letting the stirrups make some noise, and then getting her to give her nose side to side, yielding to pressure. I'm going to start jumping around a little bit. You can see she was a little bit hesitant about that, so I'm going to work on that some more. I make a little mental note of that. If I see her get a little bit nervous about something that I'm doing, I'm going to go back and do it a lot. My theory being, if she's getting nervous with me jumping up and down on her side, then that's a red flag. So we need to address that before we go any further. I'm not going to get on her until she's 100% calm with me jumping up and down next to her. There's no point in trying to skip ahead until we've got all these foundation issues all nice and smoothed out. So that's another mistake I see people make. They ignore a red flag warning, they get on the horse, and then possible problem down the road. So I'm going to continue to pat her, reward her, flap the stirrups, make some noise, and jump up and down. So with an issue like that, I'm just going to continue to jump up and down and tug on the saddle at the same time until I think she's quiet and calm. So I may do that for 5 minutes or half an hour or an hour until I know that she's calm and she's quiet and she's okay with me doing that before I move on to the next step. So I think now she's fairly calm. She's tolerating me jump up and down next to her. She's tolerating me slapping on the saddle and pulling the stirrups. So I'm going to go ahead and take the saddle off of her. And she stands quietly even when I drag that cinch back up over her back. And that's exactly what I want. Very good girl.